I'll start with the most recent news he made when he sat down with Kristen Welker, who's the new moderator of Meet the Press. Chuck Todd's out, she's in. And she asked him about abortion and tried to sort of tee it up as, you know, isn't it terrible what some states are doing, banning abortion or setting these 6-week limits? And they got into a lengthy exchange. We're going to talk about a couple pieces of it, but here's the first one where his substantive comments on where he'd like the line to be and what he would do as president have gotten him some pushback.
If a federal ban landed on your desk, if you were reelected, would you sign it at 15
weeks? Are you
weeks?
talking about a complete ban?
A ban at 15 weeks.
Well, people are starting to think of 15 weeks. That seems to be a number that people are talking about right now.
Would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake. But we'll come up with a number. But at the same time, Democrats won't be able to go out in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months and allow an abortion. Both sides are going to come together, and both sides, and this is a big statement, both sides will come together, and for the first time in 52 years, you'll have an issue that we can put behind us.
At the federal level?
It could be state or it could be federal. I don't frankly care.
David, this reminds me of, this comedian who we used to go to see. He's great. He's at the Comedy Center. His name is Dove Davidson. And the guy used to say, I don't know what it is about Trump. You know, I'd listen to him and I'm like, yeah, okay. When he says, we're going to get rid of Obamacare. And what are you going to replace it with? Something amazing. And I just don't like the way I feel after I'm done listening to it. Why do I feel so bad every time I walk away? This is Trump. Like, it's just everyone's going to be happy. I mean, somehow he's going to find a deal. Everyone's going to be happy on abortion, which is an impossibility. But the right, DeSantis, more conservatives who have been pushing for these more restrictive abortion limits and certainly do like the idea of a federal ban, very unhappy with that answer. What do you make of what he's doing?
Well, I think Trump is being cagey here for a reason. I think he's starting to pivot towards the general, and I think he recognizes that the politics of abortion have changed since the Dobbs decision. We've now had referenda in 6 states, basically testing this question of the popularity of restricting abortion access. They've had referenda in Kansas, Kentucky, Michigan, Montana, Wisconsin, and Ohio. In all of them, the anti-abortion side has lost in one form or another. The electorates of all those states, 4 of which are pretty deep red states, 2 of which are purple states, the Republicans are going to need if Trump's or whoever the nominee is going to get elected in 24. So this question has now been tested, and I think that Trump realizes that the Republicans are going to have to moderate their position somewhat or have to defend a position in the general that's fairly unpopular. So I tend to think that Trump is being cagey here because his political instincts are pretty good on this. I think he doesn't want to attach himself to a position that's going to become a liability in the general.
To me, it's so simple. He should just say for years, the Republicans wanted it left to the states. I'm the guy you can thank for now having it left to the states. That's where it should stay. We shouldn't have a federal ban because guess what? If Republicans are able to ban it at the federal level, then Democrats are able to make it legal across the board at the federal level. The federal legislation should not be a thing because even the most pro-life Republicans should be very fearful about what the Democrats could do if they were to have enough votes in the House and the Senate and control the White House. Like, I don't get why it has to be anything more than that. Just say, I think it should be handled at the states. That's how the system was set up. And here's what I would like to see, but you know, I'm not gonna interfere with what California wants to do. I guess that's not an acceptable answer.
Well, I think you're right, Megyn, that for 50 years, the Republican position on abortion was that it was a matter that should be left to the states. And that's why Roe v. Wade needed to be overturned. But the second that happened and the Republicans got their wish in Dobbs, it seemed like many of them shifted their position to now wanting the federal government to regulate it and to restrict abortion and not leave it to the states. I think this is an area that is rife for Democratic attacks if the Republicans now take this position that abortion should be federalized and banned again, at the federal level. So I agree with you. I think the right answer for Republicans here is to say that this is not a one-size-fits-all issue, that every state is going to be a little bit different, and ultimately it's up to the states to decide this. But even within that context, I'll just note that that several of these red states that have looked at this question now have voted against the idea of banning or significantly restricting abortion. So I think even at the state level, the Republicans are going to have to kind of update their messaging on this, or they're going to keep losing elections. In Michigan, which is a purple state, the Republicans got swept across the board there because of the salience of this issue. And I think when Trump says things like the Republican Party is inarticulate on this issue, I think that's what he's talking about. He's basically saying that we need to figure out how to talk about this, or we're going to lose a lot of elections.
It's kind of interesting because we've had Republicans elected to the White House before. Obviously, Trump was not the first. Ones who are genuinely conservative, unlike Trump, who is a populist and really spent most of his life as a Democrat. And they've won. Ronald Reagan was pro-life. He won. George W. Bush was pro-life. He won. His dad, same deal. We could go down the list. And they would absolutely have favored a ban, a federal ban, any kind of ban on abortion. They wanted it outlawed. They're very pro-life. But Roe was in place. And so you could run openly saying that. And I don't think it really rattled most pro-life Republicans. There are pro-choice Republicans, and there are some, or pro-choice Democrats, because they had Roe. So it was like, it's fine. You can have that as your personal position. And I know you're going to do things around the edges that I might not like, but the fundamental right is not going to go away. Well, now it's gone. Now Roe, which was a terrible decision, was rightfully overturned. And now it is back at issue. And so you're raising a good point that you do, as the Republican candidate, find yourself maybe in a bit of a different position in saying where you stand on this than all those other guys I just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, so Andrew Breitbart once said that politics is downstream of culture. And the reality is that Republicans have not convinced the culture or the country on this issue. And it's you look at opinion polling, it's about a 60-40 country in favor of not unlimited abortion, but having abortion be available. And I just think that if Republicans get too far ahead of the politics of this without convincing the public, they're simply going to lose a lot of elections. I mean, I think that's the reality of it. And I think the politics of this have changed since Dobbs. Like you're saying, it was more of a theoretical issue before Dobbs. When Roe v. Wade was the law of the land, Republicans could basically take, a more direct pro-life position. You could argue that it actually benefited them because the 40-ish% of the country that identified as pro-life was more motivated than the 60% who identified as pro-choice. But I think now that's changed, and I think the pro-choice side is very motivated, and because they see it as a real issue now, and it is a real issue at the state level. So I do think the Republicans are going to have to update their at least their messaging, if not their position on this, if they want to win elections. And again, I just think that Trump's instincts on this are pretty good. And I'll just note that whenever Trump opposes GOP groupthink, as he has a history of doing, not just on abortion now, but he did this on immigration in 2016. He did this on Paul Ryan's entitlement cuts. Remember this? Like way back in 2016, saying the Republicans should absolutely not go there. We'll get slaughtered if we try to cut Social Security or Medicare. He said that's a really stupid idea. On China trade, opposing free trade in the GOP. He has a history of opposing GOP groupthink, and in every case he's been proven right. And just on the politics of it, I think he has a strong intuitive level understanding of where the country is on these issues, and I think he'll be proven right about this one as well.
Millions of Americans earn and use credit card rewards. A few big box retailers want to take those rewards away. That's according to the Electronics Payments Coalition, a sponsor of today's episode. Rewards you may use on groceries and school supplies, cash back to save on gas and grow small businesses, and travel miles to make memories. The so-called Credit Card Competition Act would eliminate credit card rewards. No more travel miles and no more cash back. Visit handsoffmyrewards.com to learn more. And if you would like to help them, tell your legislator to stand up to the retail giants and to support consumers and small businesses. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.